Hello, this is Simon Gregory Partridge for Dover Community Radio, and I'm speaking to what I feel is a major force of the day, especially here in Dover for the minute. Sorry, whom am I speaking to, please?
My name's Mark Millsted. I'm an artist. I'm showing this wonderful little place, gallery, ART31, and we've been honoured to allow some of my works to be shown here, so it's great to be here. Yeah.
Because I have seen you here before, and now you've decided to grace us with your own works.
Yeah, I mean, I take an interest in the arts sort of generally. Well, I'm from Folkestone, but that's where our studio is. But I do come over to Dover and check out the latest work that's shown at the gallery here. Yeah.
What I feel your work is a radical rework of the imagination, and you're trying to come from outside to the inside, maybe.
Well, I think there's a part of me that sort of definitely exists in the paintings. They're quite abstract, a lot of my works, but it varies between abstract and sort of doing quite a representational type work. But I guess the language that I try to create when I'm doing my work or the paintings is, reveals something which I don't exactly know what it is about myself, but it sort of comes out in terms of composition or expressionist marks, colours. How they sort of create their own sort of visual dialogue. So I suppose it is quite an internal way of comes out original. It's sourced from my internal.
Is, I suppose, in the long run, about internalisation.
Yeah, I guess so. It's not contemplation. I mean, some of the paintings I've returned to, so like a year's time. So I begin them, then put them aside, and then I reflect quite a lot of the works. And they're quite ambiguous, but sometimes I'm not sure sometimes if they're complete. I hope they might be complete, but sometimes I think it's dependent on
That is a problem, isn't it? Do you actually redo your works?
I do, yeah. Quite often I do rework. But it just depends on. Sometimes they feel like they're right. Sometimes they're on. I quite like the edginess of the works when maybe they're not quite complete in some ways, but maybe they are. And perhaps I've done that dynamic, which sort of challenges me. I feel as an energy, maybe.
Because I see you've done two works there on the same theme. In yellow, orange and ochre, and I was just thinking that if people are going to buy your works, they need to buy one or two at least to get some idea of where you're coming from.
Yeah, some works do complement each other actually, and with some works I work on several at the same time. Yeah. Or go through, some of them will be really, really quick, in fact, although I said some of them return after a year, but some of them are really quick. And I'm quite happy with that sort of process of, I might think a lot about what I'm doing, then dive in, and then I'm happy with the result, and then I set it aside. Otherwise, I'm almost struggling in a way trying to get the answers right, but it's like a reflection is really important, whatever process and actually process is really important in my work too. The process of if I do printmaking, I like the process going through there. Some of the unknowns in printmaking I respond to, and I think that sort of recreates in the paintings as well, in a different way.
It's like in my works, there's a balance. It sounds like incredible balance between line and colour, and in the background, shape and form. I feel that's something which comes across very heavily in the works you've got exhibited here today.
Yeah, I've worked a lot in monochrome as well as colour as well, and a lot of sketchbooks I use a lot to back that up. So I might go through periods when I do a lot of sketchbooks, but there's just a shift in the works when there's some sort of background movement. I like the layering within the works, and that sort of, and whether it's in the monochromatic side or whether it's in the more gestural, the painting side. There's just this there's sort of a layering of things that goes on. That's quite important how it develops.
Did you actually plan to make some sort of statement today with the works you've chosen, or is it just an introduction into your own work?
It's probably,
or something, or a combination of them?
I think it's probably is an introduction. Well, I don't show my work very much actually. I haven't shown my work for
it's not easy,
a long time, so it's quite nice to have this opportunity to do it. But also, it's quite cathartic for me to do that as well.
And some colours are quieter, and some colours are more. They've got healing in them, haven't they? And that blue, that like essay in blue there, it's just so enchanting.
I enjoy the process. Sometimes I feel like my colours are too strong, but I sort of veer towards that at the moment. However, these are the ones sort of I feel time themselves together, and that's why I chose them particularly. You see. And it might vary in the other ones in terms of the colour fields. And it's not always colour field painting, but it's an element of that.
It's a bit like what Katie Boget is trying to do in her work. There's an intense feeling of personal dimensions. At the same time, the colour takes over and makes it not impersonal, but quite frantic, hurried, and communicational.
Well, I quite like. Well, I like the gesture side to painting and the process of making. I like also the way that if you've got drips and things like that. So that I quite like it's slightly animated in terms of when you're actually doing it, and also it leaves that sort of a mark.
Do you ever do watercolours, or do you prefer acrylics?
I don't really use much watercolour and acrylics, although I have done. I've done more watercolour than acrylics, actually. But I might do acrylics. But these are oils. What I do.
I always find one thing I always come back to is ink and line. Just get some sort of like scratchy pen and just draw something.
Yeah, I used to make my own pens and things like that. I found that's quite. If you divorce that, I quite like divorcing that sort of. You stand away from the canvas a bit more, or the paper, and also the actual drawing implement can have its own sort of quality of line. And I like to expose that actually when I do my drawings.
Actually, correlation to that, when I was at college, our junior art collection had a small Picasso print. It had two hands in black and some a little posy of flowers, just like a hint of colour in the petals.
Yeah, it's quite a reductionist graphic quality to that. I mean, I collect prints as well. I mean, that's one of the things.
Also, one's works, they tell a story, don't they?
I think they too tend to tell the story. I'm not sure always what the story is.
They take you into them, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, this is different to the life drawing, which I also do as well. And I organise life drawing in Folkestone. And I've done that since I've been about 16. I've done it a long time.
Samuel and I were very impressed by that. You've actually gone beyond the figure and are trying to paint shadows. Is that true?
Yeah, I do. I try and bring the shadows, because all that tone comes through the figure as well. So you've got this sort of transparency.
That's like the one on the left of the new lady is like a Rodin. It has exactly the same sense of the flesh bursting out and the unseen contours.
Well, that's a very nice compliment. So it's like beautiful. But anyway, I do like. I think it's very quite therapeutic.
And you've also got something. If you saw a lady like that, you'd just glimpse her face, wouldn't you? But in the picture, you're actually just glimpsing her face.
Yeah, I mean, I like the composition as well. When I do life drawing, it's quite important.
Yeah, it says quite a lot about the picture itself, doesn't it? How one is posed in the picture.
Yeah. And lighting's really important in life drawing as well. Actually, I find.
That one's very dark. Your well, it's not a nude, but it's taking the clothes off art, isn't it? I feel.
Yeah, could say that.
Just say all those reds. Just say all those reds and yellows.
Yeah, I think
that could be the Scream, couldn't it? It could be in another world. It could be the Scream.
it could be. Well, I mean, they're not supposed to be angst paintings, but I suppose they could be interpreted like that. Maybe that's not intentional, but just the way they sort of evolve.
I think you've got a very, very strong sense of how colour works.
Well, I've got a particular vision of how my colour works, but yeah, I guess. Well, thank you very much. I guess I like painting like George Rouault's paintings. I like. It's like use colour harmony and tone. That's just, I think or line. It's one of those combinations, you know.
So who else would you say has greatly influenced you?
Well, like Francis Bacon, I like his work. I'm not sure if influenced, but over the.
Yeah, you can see him coming out there, can't you?
Yeah, there might be an element, but so there's a lot of art. I've known quite a few artists, but they tend to be sort of traditional painting, really. Like Frank Albeck, or I like London School. There should be contemporary painters. I do like contemporary painters as well, but I'm more familiar with with Graham Sutherland's work. I like a lot.
As Dave Hockley says, I just paint my friends.
I like Dave.
And I think he may be referring to the colours as well, hasn't he?
Yeah, might be actually.
In a larger field.
Yeah, it's got a beautiful way of
so
enjoying his work.
Who else would you say had come across to your line?
I like Howard Hodgkin's work. I mean, I guess Patrick Heron's work.
Howard's so keen on lines and divisions between the different bars of colour.
He had a very amazing
and
impact.
He paints
of colour.
modern America as well. Just like you, in a sense, are talking about the modern European mind with your slightly more analogous encounters with your subject.
Yeah, I don't know. But, I just do what I do. I'm not always that intellectual about how I process my work. But
it's not terribly sculptural, your work, is it? It's funny that you would expect it to be, especially with because your posing studies. You would have thought you'd have been very.
Well, I've studied architecture, but there's not much architecture going on in paintings really. But I'm interested in space within painting, so that especially the monochromatic stuff. But it's more organic.
I do notice architecture in these paintings. I don't know whether that's vain of me to say that. You see, look there, look, all those. That's people in a landscape. That there is the waterside by a harbour. They're just so real. Is one of the things you're saying is that there are real things in my painting?
I'm not sure. I mean, sometimes some of them landscapes evolve, maybe, in terms of how they drawn. But sometimes they're just a conversation of dialogues of mark making, and they're just the inspiration of composition. I like, I guess, and then it expresses itself in colour, manifests in colour.
I find when I study an image, if I'm not doing it in abstract, if I'm just trying to just get across the picture, if you divert from that what you're actually seeing, it's to destroy the harmony of the work. I have to actually paint what I see rather than.
Yeah, well, it's quite good to paint what you see, but then develop from that maybe, and there's a chance to you have a beginning, then you sort of like then you go really off field and develop it and sort of expose certain elements that you're interested in. And I'm certainly interested in ways of ways of looking, and then breaking different ways of avenues and investigating that. And I mean, life drawing particularly is good for that.
Does it sharpen your sense of form?
Well, it could be form, it could be rhythms, it could be tones. It's like the elemental drawing, really. So I think that's a good way. But also the paintings do respond to the way that you look.
But they're very different, aren't they? That those two are quite splashy, but that one is very terse and to the point and with it.
It's slightly different, but
do you think you paint moods as well, maybe?
Yeah, I mean that one responded particular sort of like some sketches that I did in my sketchbook.
It's like the colours paying you back for looking at them.
Maybe.
So how do you get to name your works then? I see you actually put a number into those.
The abstract work I was doing at time and date. That's how I do it. So like
I see. Yeah.
So it's like season, like January to May or something like that. It's just like.
I thought maybe that was a number.
Yeah, and also in the series of like that's January, May, and that's 001 to.
Actually, time is very important, isn't it, for an artist? So one does one's works in time, and one changes with time.
That's right. Yeah. So it's like a document of that, of how I was in that, and how I was responding then. So that's it.
So if somebody wants to see your works, then they have to actually come here.
Absolutely, come to ART31. So it's a lovely little gallery. So hopefully people will make the most of it and enjoy my works and other people's to come.
Are you going to exhibit in Folkestone, maybe? Do you think?
I've got a plan to show at Brew during the summer.
Oh, well, watch out for that.
So yeah, that's in July, I think. So with a different set of paintings, and I've got lots to show. So.
I was going to say Millet. I mean, Mark's slightly different.
Yeah, well, a little bit, yeah. But I'm looking forward to that.
Thank you very much for speaking with me.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay. Shall I get you a drink, shall I?
Oh, that's right. Have a drink. Oh, that's right. Thank you. That's great. Thank you.
No problem.
We got over that initial.
Been interviewing Mark, have you?